Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He was shot out a window. I believe one student shot. I've been
Columbine High School.
I don't know what's in my shoulder. Because it was just the last thing through it.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the school is in a panic. And I'm in the library. I've got students down under the table, kids. Heads under the table. Kids are screaming. Some of the teachers are, trying to take control of things. We need police here.
Okay, we're getting them there.
Police here.
Who is the student, ma'am?
I do not know who the student is.
Okay.
I saw a student outside. I was in hall. Oh, dear God. Okay. I was on hall duty. I saw a gun. I said, what's going on out there? And they said, oh, it's probably something protection. It's probably a joke. I said, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And I went walking outside. I could see what was going on. He turned the gun straight at us and shot. And my God, the window went out. And the kid standing there with me, I think he got hit.
Okay.
Something in my shoulder.
Okay. We've got help on the way, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Stay in the line with me.
Oh, God. Just stay down.
Do we know where he's at?
I'm sorry?
Do we know where he's at?
Okay. I'm in the library. He's upstairs. He's right outside of here.
He's outside?
He's outside of this hall.
Outside of the hall or outside?
The hall.
Okay.
There are alarms and things going off. There's smoke. My God, smoke is like coming into this room.
Okay.
I've got the kids under the table here. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the building. Both think that's smoking. I don't know. I'm sure someone has to be calling 911 besides.
Yes, we've got a lot of people on. Okay. I just want you to stay in the line with me. We need to know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay?
I am on the floor.
Okay. And you've got the kids
in the
there?
library. And I've got every student in this library on the floor. You better stay on the floor.
Is there any way you can lock the doors?
Smoke is coming in from out there, and I'm a little afraid. The gun is right outside the library door, okay? I don't think I'm going to go out there.
Okay, you're at Columbine High School.
I got 3 children.
Okay, we got it.
Okay? I'm going to go to the door to shut down the door, okay? I've got the kids on the floor. I got all the kids in the library on the floor.
We have paramedics, we have fire, and we have police en route, okay, sir?
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I can't believe he's not out of the woods. He just keeps shooting and shooting and shooting.
Okay, yeah, we've got a police officer on scene.
I thought it was.
Okay, just try and keep the kids in the library calm.
Yeah.
Is there any way you can block the door so no one can get in?
I do not.
Okay.
I guess I can try to go, but he's right outside that door. I'm afraid to go to the...
That's okay.
That's where he is. I'm not afraid to go there. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, I told the kids to get on the floor. I told them to get under the table. All of the children are on the floor under the table. Yeah, they're all under the tables.
Okay.
And
as long as we can just try and keep...
No one's saying a word.
Okay, as long as we can keep everyone there as calm as we can.
I hear some yelling out there going on right now.
Yeah, we've got alarms going off now as well.
Yeah, there's alarms. This room is filled with smoke.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep everyone low to the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone stay on the floor. Stay on the floor. Stay under the table.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, I know, just...
I don't know. I said, what is that kid got? He was outside at the time. And I was on hall duty. Oh, God. He's like, woo-hoo-hoo.
I know.
There's things that are being shut off. I do not know who the student was. I don't even think I saw him. He was wearing glass. He didn't look very large. Male student. He was out there shooting. It looked like he was playing out shooting. And somebody, I said, what is that? I said, what's going on out there? It's a wiretap gun. It's probably for video production. They do these videos.
Right.
And the kids, I said, well, that's not, a playgun, a real gun. I was going out there to say no. And I went, oh, my God, that was really close. That just rattled me.
Okay. What's your name, ma'am? Patty?
That brings emotion to me, and I've heard that 50 times. Patty did everything she was taught. She did exactly what she was taught, and she went to that simple brain and said, "Under the table, everybody's paying place, everybody remain in place," and you want to just jump through that microphone and say, "Get out, jump out the window. You're on the second floor." done two separate incidents, so he basically had one incident at one building, went back, he had a manifesto, he had all this packet of material, he went and mailed it to the media stores, and then went to the second building. And the second building, he, I noticed your doors in here, they all have knobs. Remember the old school swing down push bars, and you could wrap a chain around it, and you had everybody in there?
That are against the law nowadays
Yeah.
because of this?
Yeah, they are. And
Well,
again, we keep adapting our architecture and not adapting our safety measures to things that have already happened, but, the police officers get there and they can't get in, so, doors is just one option. They ended up breaching and getting in, but by that time it was too late. You'll hear them talk about in the video, but where the majority of the damage, as far as loss of life was done, was in one classroom where the professor, the sheepdog, made everybody get under the table and wait. The other ones, these kids had a plan. Said, I'm not dying in there. They had breached the windows and had somebody holding the door over here while they're getting shot, letting everybody else have an opportunity to get out. So there was a plan in one room that was different than the plan in the other room, where like I said, the majority of fatalities was in the room with everybody waiting. This is all the victims that day. Y'all remember this one? Aurora, Colorado. And I am going to show you this guy's picture because there's a point that I want to make on this. Actually, it was in August of 2012. I was in Quantico with a commander from Aurora PD. He was not there. He was with me, but he ended up telling me a lot about this. So it was a single white male, shooter. He had fantasized. He was living in this fantasy world. He was the Joker. He killed 12 people. He could have killed a lot more, but this was in the movie theater. He had numerous bombs, explosives. He had diversions set up. He had diversions set up on the other side of town. His plan was he had these neighbors that he had had many conflicts with. He set a bomb in his apartment, and the neighbors were supposed to come knock on the door because the music was too loud. When they pushed the door open, it was going to set the bomb off and blow them up, and that was going to create the diversion. It was going to kill them, which he wanted to dead anyway. And first responders would go there, give him more time here. It didn't work. He also had a bomb set in the parking lot on a remote control vehicle, hoping that I guess the kid would pick it up or something. His plan was to draw us away. He wanted to escape. He wasn't prepared to die there that day. They said he was extremely intelligent. Everybody agreed he was mentally unstable. He surrendered when he was contacted at the end. He did have bombs set for first responders. Thankfully, they were smart enough to not breach that apartment and go in there hard. They punched the windows and said, "Hey, that's not good." And they came up with a real good plan to get out there. This was high school yearbook picture. He was like a pretty normal kid. The reason I'm showing you this, not to give him fame, but to give you an idea. There was a progression. There was an opportunity for people to intervene in this. That was a little bit later. This is what he looked like at the event. And not that he's got funny looking hair or there's anything wrong with him physically. Just telling you that there were people involved in his life that saw a spiral and it wasn't good. And they had opportunities to be involved and see that he's filling up his apartment full of bombs and stuff, The early intervention could have saved those lives, could have saved his life, could have got him on the right track. People knew this guy wasn't right. And the stuff that he was saying, even when he was in the jail, the guy that I was with, he told me the jailers were calling him and they said he still was playing this movie role. He thought he was the Joker. He thought he was in a movie. He had completely lost his mind. This was the scene that day, and I thought this was really scary, but here's Columbine High School, here's Aurora, and that's how close these events were to each other. This is the movie theater. This is where all of us would park. This is where the employees would park, back here in the back. This is where he approached. He had bought some fake SWAT gear off the eBay. It looked like helmets and vests carrier, but it wasn't anything real. It was just a bunch of props.
actually started putting in vestibules to where you're routed to where, so there's tempered glass between you and, the
Right.
public and the hallways.
Yeah.
And then so you're forced to go to the front desk.
The difficult thing about like an exit only door or something like that, it's only an exit till somebody goes out, and now it's an entrance, because again, there's a will, there's a way. We have to have a better plan than just, pulling the moat up on our castle. That's a good thing. Let's get the majority of it to come here, but we need to have more than that. We need to have more depth. Common factors that I saw when I did this research was humiliation from others or associates. They were bullied. Almost all the ones that I studied were bullied. A lot of them turned around and you remember learning about the caste system where kids, they turned around and they became bullies. They went from a bully to a bully. They went from being bullied to being a bully. And that's a common factor in these schools is like Columbine, they were there to get the people that picked on them, that made them feel bad. So that's something that as a society we would probably do a lot of work on. But socially isolated, and there's nothing wrong with video games, but when somebody's life revolves around things that are not socially normal. When something has gotten way off. Fantasy games, the Joker guy in Aurora, he actually was posting pornographic female actresses with pictures that he was, put his face in next to him and telling people this is his girlfriend. He was living in a fantasy world. He was far from normal at that point. A lot of them were considered intelligent. I mean, that's a common thing that I saw. They had planned action, it was planned response, very depth of the plan. They planned on us coming many times. Columbine, they also had countermeasures for me. When they were there and they were responding, they looked over and they were like, there was IED bombs set up for us that didn't go off. So they intended on having more victims and us being that. A lot of times there's warning signs. People say, man, I wish I could go back in time. If I could just do that over again, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't fix things. Let's learn better, and not have to say that. Almost all the time they had more ammunition and weapons than they'd ever even been close to using, so it could have been way worse. Words for your toolbox, and you're going to see this in this video. We're going to play about a 20-minute video. And I don't know if y'all want to take a break before that, but about a 25-minute video. But these 3 words, and you've heard run, hide, fight, kind of different. I like these better. React, escape, and survive. Survive, whatever that means, whatever it takes. I want you to escape. I want you to get out of here. I want the person to be completely unfulfilled with whatever plan they had, because they can shoot this building up, but there's nobody in it. React means, to change in response to a stimulus, to act in opposition, just do something. I've heard so many people in these stories and in my personal career, people say, man, I wish, somebody would do something. Well, you ever do this? That's me, I should do something. I wish somebody called 911. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should intervene before. You got to do something. Escape means just get out, right? To slip away. And survive. I'll tell you, I've taken a lot of will survive classes. I trained our officers at Conroe PD, and we had a will survive class at the FBI. We taught together. I've told Brandon this before, but people, believe it or not, in my opinion, give up their life sometimes because they're not willing to fight to survive. I've seen bodies of people that there was doctors someone should do something, that's you. Trust your instincts. We already said that. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. Do something. Be confident in your decision. Have a plan. We need to rehearse them. You know, we talk about your escape routes in this room. You should do that every room you walk into. Just look. There's generally a sign. A little bit just like that. It's like kind of by code. It tells you, here's your other way out. I'm going to show you a video at the end of this. It's going to shock you how many people don't have any plan to get out other than that way right there. Look at them. I always say rehearse them in your visual cortex. Remember the first time I walked in this room today, the first time I was in this room. When I walked in, I went, okay, I got it. If I walk in here 10 years from now, if you hadn't remodeled it, I got this room, right? The first time you walked into a room, it took you just a minute to assimilate and understand where you're at. You should do that, you know, in the areas that you're commonly at. You don't have to like go behind the TSA line and get arrested or something, but you know, if you get an opportunity, be familiar with your surroundings. Preset a meetup location. I think this is important for families. You know, if this happens, go there. If something happens at our church, my wife's sitting right here. She knows where she's going. I know where I'm going. She knows what I'm going to do before I go where she's going to be. But she has a plan. She knows where she's going to go. She generally knows what door she's going to go out, depending on her options at the time. And when you get there, call for help. The shocking thing is, how hard is it to pick this phone up, to clear the screen lock, and get to the phone app and dial 911 and hit send? It seems really stupid and simple. It's not when your brain is in this moment. It is a lot more difficult than you think, and people will sit here and they'll be sitting here and mess with it. Go get saved and then do that. We're coming anyway. There's probably 80, 90 people that have called already. But go do it when you are safe. You're not doing anybody any help if you're just an additional victim. This video is free on the internet. It's called Super Steve. You can't really see it down here. S-U-P-E-R-S-T-E-E-S. It's grant funded. You pay for it. The HPD and the Strategic Security Solutions, they made it. And I like this one better than a lot of the other ones that are out there. I know some of the people in the movie, in the video itself. You're going to hear a lot of the same things we talk about, and I'll tell you the reason. But do you want to take a real short break? It's about 20 to 25-minute video. Anybody need a break? Okay, well, feel free to go if you need to then, and I'm going to play this, and...
What's it called again?
What's that? Super Steve, S-U-P-E-R-S-T-E-E-S, and that's Latin for survive. But there is about 10 different versions on YouTube of it now. People have actually reposted it so they can get more likes on their
Are
page.
they a consultant from Houston?
What's that?
Are they a consultant from this area, or are they?
Yeah, the one of the main actors in here that you can't see that he's got a crippled arm, but he's from McKinney,
Okay.
and a lot of the other ones are from HPD.
Okay.
So it's really good. It's really good training. But HPD also did the run, hide, fight thing, and I just shy away from it. I like this a lot better.
We just put in gunshot protection at the Tillman Fukita Tactical Training Center.
Okay.
So we're training them right now on how to use, training the TAC teams on how to use, like, how to respond to an active shooter with gunshot protection.
Okay. A really long lead into this. It's actually planned, but you think, man, that's a long time. But the main thing is they want you to understand that you can't make money teaching this class. I mean, I share the PowerPoint with anybody that wanted it.
I'm going to bring you some details on a breaking story out of Aurora, Colorado this morning. A very scary situation at a suburban Denver movie theater. Apparently there has been a mass shooting. What we're hearing from the police
A mall outside of Portland, Oregon tonight. When as many as 60 shots rang out, the scene of holiday Americana turned into terrified chaos.
We've been telling you this morning there has been a shooting at a school in Newtown. This is the Sandy Hook Elementary School.
Gunfire erupts in a normally quiet office complex.
News reports down in New Orleans, according to local news reports, at least 12 people shot at a Mother's Day parade there.
A gunman is dead after police say he opened fire at a McKinney Public Safety building.
We do know that one suspect is confirmed dead.
We had a tragedy that occurred here in our city, right in front of our public safety building, which obviously gets very close to home. None of our personnel on police or fire were injured during this incident. Very proud to say that.
If you're in the middle of an active shooter, Countermeasure Consulting implores you to do three things. You want to react. You want to understand something is happening. You want to escape. You want to get out of the building at all costs, and you want to survive. You want to do that for you, your family, and for others.
We cannot rely on the stupidity of our enemies because our enemies are resourceful, they're bright, and fight unfairly.
The active shooter probably has plenty of ammunition. The active shooter has plenty of magazines.
If we sit back and take the attitude of it'll never happen here, you've already lost. You've already become the sheep.
On the national average, it takes law enforcement 14 minutes to arrive.
Those 14 minutes are going to make a big difference between how many lives you're going to save versus how many are going to get lost.
This video is set up to help you mitigate those 14 minutes of what to do before law enforcement gets there. We don't teach police response strategies, we don't teach military response strategies, and we don't teach fighting strategies. We teach common sense approach to safety.
The key is you have to take action.
One of the events that took place that I was involved in was at the McKinney Police Department. Someone woke up one morning and drove to the McKinney Police Department when his white Nissan pickup truck that was filled with ammonium nitrate. He proceeded to pop a flare in the front of the truck, popped a flare and threw it in the trailer, and then ran across the street and fired 168 rounds at the front of the police department.
And about that time, we see glass breakage. So we realized we were under fire by an active shooter from the outside had come to attack our police building.
While he's doing this, he's waiting for an explosion to happen, thinking the ammonium nitrate would detonate. However, he got the formula incorrect. But his goal was to trump Oklahoma City.
That none of our personnel on police or fire were injured during this incident. Very proud to say that.
An active shooter is an individual who is going in to cause a great deal of harm to a group of people. The term shooter implies a firearm, but actually that's not one of the key components. And they will almost always choose the most vulnerable populations to go after.
They are not a new phenomenon. There's no geographic region that is excluded. Males account for approximately 75% of all offenders. 50% of attacks take place in under 12 minutes. 48% of incidents end by force, whether it's by police or citizens.
I think trying to profile an active shooter is like trying to profile a drunk driver. There are lots of reasons why people drive drunk, and it's really not relevant if you're on the receiving end. I'm more focused on what they do, because what they do has some consistencies. Why they do it has a variety of reasons, and unfortunately we have seen that.
Usually they feel that someone has wronged them and they are trying to make it right by violence of action.
We have had people who've had some severe mental illness, or they have felt left out and they've decided to make a name for themselves.
And that's the only similarities that we can find so far.
That's why I prefer to talk a little bit about what they do. We do know that some of the best predictors of behavior is what people say they're going to do. So if someone says that they are going to commit a violent act, I would take them at their word and I would call the police. Most people who have violent fantasies do not act on them. Now you start putting things together. They have fantasies, they start writing down those fantasies, then they start collecting firearms and ammunition and come up with a plan of people they're going to kill. That's taking action. Only if a friend happens to pick up on it, someone that they trust, are you likely to have any idea that that's occurring. A long time ago, I was in Afghanistan, and it was when we had first gotten there and we didn't know much about it, and I was up on the second floor of a very rickety old hangar, and all of a sudden, the hangar started shaking. but I just assumed somebody was bringing in a large jet. And it wasn't until I gradually, slowly wandered back outside to see what was causing the noise that I recognized that we were in the middle of an earthquake. So I had done exactly the wrong things. I had interpreted it as a safe noise not to be worried about.
The majority of people that I've interviewed after active shooters have all stopped and asked each other, is that a gunshot? Do I hear shots being fired? Did this just happen? What are we going to do?
You hear loud noises all the time. Not, oh my goodness, that might be someone actually trying to kill people.
If you hear a gunshot, you don't want to stop and think, did I just hear a gunshot?
3 words I'd like you to remember are react, escape, and survive. React to the threat, escape from the threat, so that you can survive. Must do something. We spend a lot of time and trouble training people to do fire drills to get out of a building. So if you think about that with all the emphasis that we give to fire drills and how deadly fires are, you see the challenge involving getting people to recognize the threat with an active shooter.
If you hear gunfire, if you see gunfire, you may have some risks in your brain that you are trying to process in slow motion. You need to train your paradigm. If I think I hear a gunshot, I'm going to get up and I'm going to leave.
How do you train people to react in a way that's effective under high levels of stress?
Some people, they just don't know what they don't know unless you've been in these situations before. You just don't know how you're going to react.
Even though in situations that are oftentimes openly perilous on their face, we're still surprised when something bad happens to us.
You know, in times of stress, you're going to rise to the threat. Well, you know, studies show time and time again, you don't rise to the threat, you default to your level of training. So under stress, if you're going to default to your level of training, you better make sure you have the best training possible.
If you remember nothing else, you must do something. People don't necessarily want to react. Let me not rush into this. Let me just see what's happening. This has never happened before. There's got to be something else going on.
I break it down. What would I do or what would I want to know when faced with one of these problems?
One is action versus reaction. The notion of action versus reaction that we must understand is that the bad guy always has the jump on us.
I see something and then I respond to it, understanding what it is. And those are called reaction intervals. And if you overlay that with the OODA loop, that if you are a threat to me, I have a certain number of reaction intervals I have to do.
Bad guy has already set up and observed, oriented, and decided when to strike us. They're just waiting to act. And that acronym is called an OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act.
You present threatening behavior towards me, I have to understand that there is threatening behavior coming towards me. That's one reaction interval. For the average trained individual to respond to a threat requires about 1.5 seconds.
That's an eternity in a firefight. It doesn't sound like much, but that's a big jump.
How far can the average person run in about 1.5 seconds? 21 feet, 25 feet?
Preparation and practice. Be prepared. Practice what you are thinking. Know where your exits are. Know where your entrances are. Know the other employees around you. Report suspicious behavior immediately.
Our decision that action versus reaction is often clouded by disbelief. Oh my gosh, is this really happening to me?
There's no need to panic when you're faced with a situation. You know what is going on, you know how to control, and you can deal with.
So that's the first lesson there.
The more information you have, the more data you collect and your ability to process it, the better decisions you're going to make.
Once you've realized that you need to take some action, you need to get out, to escape.
In 2011, I was on vacation with my family. We were driving on Cape Canaveral Avenue towards Cocoa Beach, and my 14-year-old daughter looked out the window and said, there's someone shooting an office park. Sure enough, there was a gunman engaged in a firefight with police, and there was a ton of traffic ahead of us. Literally, people just, what I like to say is stuck on stupid. They weren't in fight or flight mode, they were in stuck mode. We were in a rental car and we literally pushed our way out of the area, made a hard left turn into oncoming traffic, but we were moving away from the sound of the gunfire instead of moving to. At that time, In my mind, I was a father and a husband getting my family away from a gunman and not a policeman responding to the sound of bullets.
But you've got to evacuate yourself out of the danger area. You've got to move, and you've got to do that first. You have a family, you have friends.
Wait and see is not an option, because the more time you give a shooter, the more damage they're going to do. The mission of an active shooter is killing and executing people for no reason at all, with no worries about their own self-preservation or life.
It tells us that force is going to be required to stop this person. The odds of you having the force to do that are minimal. If you're sitting in an office, you are not prepared for that. You will be under a huge amount of stress when this occurs. So remember, run, hide, fight. 14 minutes is a very long time. Regardless of how far you move, by breaking out of that stasis of just sitting there going, I wonder what's going on, you're thinking in your head, that slows you down. You need to be moving and acting.
In a corporate environment, there's a lot of closed-in spaces, and it's very hard to find an escape path. You should previously know where that escape path is after watching this training. If you know the exit is behind you and there's a shooter in front of you, you need to remain as low as possible while moving as fast as possible to that exit and escape. Open environments or open spaces, the retail areas, like the Kansas Mall shooting. People were exposed to this active shooter that was walking through shooting people at random because they were stuck in just watching him. They weren't aware of their environment, they weren't aware of which direction to go to, and they had no training, and this is no fault of their own. No one ever taught them this information. If you're in these open area environments, such as a retail store, continue to move. You're less likely to be a target if you're moving, because the shooter that's walking through any one of those areas I talked about is looking for the easy targets of opportunity.
You need to be moving and acting and getting out of the danger area.
That safety is behind cover.
Cover means protection from firearms. So cover isn't the same thing as hiding. It means that a cartridge, a bullet, will not make it through that cover to injure you.
During the incident, the McKinney Police Department, what he was trying to do was draw the police and the firefighters out so he could shoot them one at a time. What he didn't realize was the plume of smoke blinded him from the front of the department. Concealment. And when I use that word, it's a mask. Think of it as disguising yourself so you can't be seen. So a building or cinder block wall would be a good piece of cover. A glass window would not be cover. Once you're in a safe, covered area, begin to use your phone. Call 911. What about my friend that doesn't want to come? You're gonna have to let your friend be. It's about self-preservation at that point in time. The kids heard an explosion, and they were reacting to what they thought was a fire. So they ran to another direction where another IED went off, and it sent the kids back, and what it did was it bottled them back into the library where they were trapped. Only thing students were trained for was to get under a desk and wait for help. These two children ran around and hunted the kids under the desk and executed them one by one. Stopping and doing nothing is similar to some footage that we have of Columbine High School shooting. We have students running one way only to find out that it was a trap because their goal was to end life that day and then end their own lives. So when we say hide is not your best option, it's because the people that are hiding are stationary targets. When you're dealing with this type of situation, you want to develop the mindset of survival. If you can't run and get out of the office safely or out of the open area safely, you will not allow this person to cause you damage and fail to let you go home.
The Department of Homeland Security says hide. And I don't disagree with that, but there are some real serious consequences that could occur from that.
The shooter at Virginia Tech just went and hunted who he wanted to shoot at will. The largest amount of deaths in one single place was in one of the classrooms where a professor tried to lock them in a room and wouldn't let them leave, and this person found that room that didn't lock, opened the door, and shot the professor first and then the kids.
That's why I prefer to talk about prepare to evacuate. So the entire time you're hiding, you're not hiding. You are planning, preparing to evacuate the danger area. You may temporarily have to keep out of the line of fire, but you're not going to stay there. And you never think about yourself staying there. While you're hiding, be prepared to move. That is not a permanent stasis, except under the most extraordinary circumstances.
You know a gunman is outside in the corridor. You want to secure the view. You want to hide out of sight from them. You want to silence your cell phone and get down behind your desk and just be as quiet as possible.
It could take 45 minutes before the police are able to neutralize the threat.
Hide behind a wall, solid core door that has a double lock cylinder. Behind a desk, remember to black out the shades. Silence your cell phone and try to remain there until it's safe to escape.
The probability of that person surviving just increased.
At all costs, should you not be able to do any of those things, don't become a victim and don't become a statistic.
Homeland Security says fight, and I'd be a little more aggressive and I'd say attack.
Gather a couple people and attack the shooter as violently and swiftly as possible to stop the threat.
Now, is that a good idea? No, it's a horrible idea, but it may be the best of some really bad alternatives that you have. Realizing it needs to be as violent and as hard as you possibly can put forth.
We call it, in the military, field expedient weapons. In the police department, we use our utility belt. If you are in an office building and you are behind a desk and a shooter comes in and you have no safe way out, hit them. And don't stop hitting them until you survive. If you have a chair, hit them with a chair. If you have a phone, smack them in the head with a phone. If you can dive over a cubicle on top of someone and take them to the ground, yell for help and ask for other people to help you incapacitate the shooter. Hit the gun out of their hand. Hit them in the face. Hit them anywhere that you think it might hurt them. But you want to incapacitate the shooter as quickly as possible.
Attack with everything and every one that you have.
The shooter will not stop until he inflicts as many casualties as possible. Make them the statistic. The law is on your side, and your family's on your side. During an active shooting event, there is going to be a time that police arrive. Whether it's 14 minutes or under or 14 minutes or later, they are going to show up. And when they do, there's some procedures that you need to follow. The first one you need to remember is you need to remain as calm as possible as you exit the building or as you're outside talking to the officers with as much information as possible, because they're responding to the report of someone firing a gun, and they don't know if that's you or someone else.
Your body is going to physiologically respond as it should, which is in a life-threatening event. Your pulse will go through the roof, your pupils will dilate, you'll start to sweat. You've probably read that you may have involuntary bowel movements. You may want to freeze, which is why we spend so much time telling you you've got to move. But then once it's over, well, you all of a sudden have this huge response to being safe. Some of that may be talking. Some of that may just being wanting to go up and talk to the policeman, touch the policeman, likely to get you into serious trouble.
Ever since the shooting at Columbine, the response tactics of police have transformed tremendously. Where they would used to show up, surround, create a perimeter, and call SWAT, now there's a less traditional approach.
We had mass casualties, we had propane tanks that went off. The children, I mean, they're ingrained in our minds, the children walking across the field with their hands up. And now, of course, we've got the tragedy in Connecticut, the most recent one.
Now the police show up. When the second or third police officer shows up on scene, they are entering your building. They're not there to repair the damage or fix the casualties. Even the people that are reaching out to them, please help me, they are there to stop the threat, which is the active shooter.
It's hard words, but it kind of drives the point home. Our job is to save lives. The ones that are injured, they're either going to survive or they're going to die. But why risk 50 more kids by stopping your advancement? In order to help these people, we've got to stop the threat. We've got to stop the threat or isolate it.
They don't know who the shooter is, the odds are. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know what he's dressed like. All they know is that there's someone in there killing people. So as soon as there is any chance of you being observed by the police, you need to do a couple of things. One is, if at all possible, stay still. Second is make sure that your hands are able to be seen by the police. Policemen are highly attuned to looking to where the hands are, and that they know that you are not one of the bad people. It may be possible that the police still don't know that for sure, so they might actually handcuff you. Be prepared to deal with that and do not fight it.
Be ready to corral yourself and your neighbors and your office mates in a safe area away from the active shooter if it's not resolved yet. And try to keep it as calm as possible, even though it's an incredibly violent account. The calmer you are, the better your chances are of surviving the incident. The most important thing is, do not go back until told all clear and safe to do so.
They're not there to treat wounded. They're not there to evacuate you. They're there to find that shooter and stop that shooter as soon as possible before he can kill anybody else. There'll be a medical team that'll be on their way. There'll be people to evacuate you out of there right behind them, but that's not their job.
Preparation, practice. I'll tell you that being involved in other active shooting events, the two as a police officer dictated a very specific response. The one as a civilian probably woke me up because I knew that when my daughter said, "Dad, someone's shooting," I actually closed my eyes after we got through it and said, what would my wife do at work? What would you do at work?
The less you have to think about, the better. An office is not a place of a threat. Why would you ever think that an office is going to have a threat, going to have some risk involved with it?
If we sit back and take the attitude of it'll never happen here, you've already lost. You've already become the sheep.
It's that cognitive shift between a safe environment to recognizing that there is a danger. The active shooter is prepared. The active shooter probably has plenty of ammunition. The active shooter has plenty of magazines.
We cannot rely on the stupidity of our enemies.
The more information you have and your ability to process it, the better decisions you're going to make.
Must do something.
You want to react.
React to the threat.
You want to understand something is happening. Wait and see is not an option. Because the more time you give a shooter, the more damage they're going to do. If I think I hear a gunshot, I'm going to get up and I'm going to leave. You want to escape.
Escape from the threat.
You want to get out of the building at all costs.
Force is required to stop this person. The odds of you having the force to do that are minimal. So remember, react, escape, survive.
And you want to survive.
So that you can survive.
You want to do that for you, your family, and for others.
If you remember nothing else, you must do something.
There is going to be a time that police arrive. And when they do, you need to remain as calm as possible as you exit the building. They are responding to a report of someone firing a gun, and they don't know if that's you or someone else. In summary, you want to be ready for an active shooter at all costs. You don't want to be a victim. You want to have a survival mindset. You want to know what actions you're going to take. You want to be aware of your surroundings.
We can never be too prepared to respond to the threat of perpetrators going to come into our schools and do some harm to our children or our staff.
If you've watched this video, you should know where the exits are. You should have a predetermined escape path. But the key focal point is, do not stop moving until you are safe. Once you're safe, you have survived the event. The rest can be dealt with later.
These are the 7 universal expressions of emotion. Pastor, this is Pastor. Yeah. So this is one thing I'd like to call to your attention. Yeah. These are what we're looking for when we come into a situation, right? So I don't really care if you're happy and contempt and sadness and surprise and disgust. I'm looking for that, and that's what you need to look at, okay? You got the best view up here, in my opinion. Somebody comes in and they got a look on their face, that is not a choice that we make when we have that kind of emotion. It's actually, it's just permeating out of us. We're looking for this as a source. We're looking for that as the problem. That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. Anybody disagree that that's pretty realistic right there?
Hey, so John, I guess it's probably been a year ago, we had a guy that I know he's a convict, but he would come every once in a while. And so he came and he had a backpack and everything, and he was over here on the side. And I just didn't like his movement that morning.
Yeah.
And it concerned me in the middle of everything. And so I just stopped and I called him out from there.
Yeah.
And he's standing in the center aisle. I don't know that I did the right thing. I just was like, man, what are you doing? I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but, you know, what do you need? You know, and he didn't like being confronted, but it put everybody else on alert.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the security guys took it from there. And I mean, is that appropriate to do, or do I, you know?
No, I think it's perfectly appropriate. I think if you have an instinct or something not right, you should act on it and not have regrets later. So you might have stopped something. You know, we love you because we're all brothers and sisters of the same father, but we're not going to let you hurt somebody here.
Right.
And I felt that way in my church, and I've actually, my tactic, short of having some kind of further proof, because I mean, I'm representing the government, I can't really intervene in your, you know, I can't just accost you.
Right.
So I'll go sit as close as possible to them. I'll sit right behind them, and Randy probably would too.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that there's no movement that you're gonna make that's gonna be harmful that I'm not gonna be able to have some kind of opportunity for me.
Right.
And I didn't interfere in his ability to come and worship, but I'm not gonna let you hurt somebody. And I'm not gonna create an enemy either, because, you know, I don't want to stir something in you that's not already there. You know, it's kind of a fine line, but no, I don't think you did anything wrong. I'm sure the people in the congregation appreciated that. You have the best view. I tell Jake Garlis that too. I said, you see that, you do something. And if you see that look on his face of surprise, like, you know, you do something. You know, we have an opportunity, but that to me is real.
Yeah.
And if I have the anger to come and do something like this to somebody, I'm not going to be able to hide that. That's pretty much how we're going to, you know, with a rear cover and side and two front cover, that's kind of an ideal situation. Probably not going to wait till there's 5 people before you come in. You know, there's a lot of statistics says that it needs to be more than one. I think this is important for us to talk about. How many people in here carry a weapon in this church? A lot, yeah. And I know there's an undervote in the audience. He's in the back, he's saying. So just understand that when you go to protect yourself or another, understand somebody else may not see you that way. Okay, so it needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be. This won't hurt anybody. It needs to be, you know, as close and tight as possible, like that, from that holster position until you actually had to use it. I mean, I would not ever expect you to be rolling through this church like this, waiting for one of your fellow parishioners to shoot you too. That's just the worst case scenario, that an innocent person got hurt. Does that make sense? Anybody disagree with that? That's what concerns me very much. And I actually had a person in another class, and Raymond was actually there, and he says, you mean to tell me that you expect me, because the church that I go to, and I said coordinate security, it's a large campus, you expect me to not go where my child is? That's exactly what I expect, because your child's not going to be there waiting on you. They have a plan down there too, and if that child is still there by the time you get there, and you have just rode through the whole church with your handgun, without getting shot, which would be a miracle, if you get there and the child's still there, then we have failed that child, because they should have already been waiting on before you get there. You do what you got to do, and we have that covered too. But, happens to you when you go through a critical incident. The fight or flight, we've all heard about that, visual changes. Have you ever taken the tube out of the wrapping paper at Christmas and looked through it when you were a kid? You can only see about this much. That's a real deal. I always tell people the first time that I ever made entry on a SWAT warrant, my job was to go through the living room, down the hallway, first door on the left. Guy had a gun. We knew he was in that room. And flashbang goes off. My job was to go down through the living room, first door on the left, down the hallway. I get down there, the door's locked. I had to breach the lock. The guy's reaching for the gun. We jerked him off the bed, put handcuffs on him. Yay, nobody got hurt. Didn't have to hurt him. He didn't hurt us. I'm walking back out, and I go through the living room, and there's a pool table in the middle of the living room, and I never saw a pool table. I never saw it. And somehow, to this day, I'll never understand how I went through it, but I must have bounced off of it and kind of went around the side of it. But I never saw a pool table because I had tunnel vision so bad because of my adrenaline response. And we call it auditory exclusion or visual exclusion, but auditory exclusion too. It's going to happen. You're not going to see something over there because you're hyper-focused on something over here. Auditory exclusion, time perception. Many people don't see color. They don't remember color. They see it. Our eyes are just, lenses to the brain. But I've learned a lot about this in my training. I investigate off-and-off shootings, and your brain is so scattered after an incident. People laugh when it's inappropriate. You think, man, that's so insensitive. I was watching a video last week, and I saw some very bad language from a police officer, and the prosecutor's like, is that expected? And I said, our brains are very unexpected. I mean, anything can happen. It wasn't the language of, I'm angry, it was just inappropriate, but it was his adrenaline response. He was, releasing this adrenaline, and it was just unexpected what he was saying, but it wasn't bad, it just wasn't normal. Hearing perception, people call it auditory exclusion, but many people don't hear gunshots. I didn't do it here tonight, but sometimes I bring blanks and I'll shoot them in your church right over here while y'all are all sitting in here. Because Hollywood has taught us that we know what gunshots sound like, and you do not. It does not sound like anything like you've ever been seeing on TV. It sounds like somebody hanging a picture in another part of the church. It sounds like somebody knocking something over, and it's actually gunshots going off down there. I fired blanks in my church, and people were like, what was that? Yeah, that's 15 yards down the hallway, somebody's shooting. It just doesn't sound like what we think it does. On a gun range, it sounds like that. In a neighborhood or in a, out in an outdoor area, sound travels. But in a building, it sounds like somebody hanging a picture somewhere. So don't think that we know that and predict that. A lot of people get sick. They're real. They can't run. They look like their legs don't work anymore. Loss of bladder control. I've seen that a lot of times. I've never seen anybody do the other one, but it's possible. So here's our beats per minute down here, and when your heart rate skyrockets immediately, when you get over like 200, you have auditory exclusion. Your ears do not work any longer. But you see that one of the first things that happens is you start to lose your fine motor skills. Your fine motor skills are what? That's the thing that dial the phone that we were talking about a minute ago, and that's the thing that also operate this, this deal. Complex motor movements are way up here at 175, and gross motor movements, that's kind of just your big muscles, just the big movement muscles. That's what you really need to practice on. And it's one of the reasons in law enforcement we train so much, is we try to train through this and keep our heart rate down. But I actually learned recently that that's kind of a misnomer. You think a race car driver, NASCAR driver, somebody races, what's the one where they get the little wheels, the tires are so any car. They geared these people up, and they were doing all this physiological testing on them. Those guys, you think they'd be, they've done this like forever. You think they'd be calm? No, they're 200. The whole time they're racing, those guys are athletes. 200 beats a minute plus. Some of them are like 220. I mean, that is maximum exertion for your cardiovascular system. And they do that for the whole race. And I always thought that they would be like 75 75 beats a minute. You know, I've been in pursuits having a phone call with Holly before, because I'm like, I've been chasing this guy for 45 minutes all over East County. I'm like having a conversation with her on the phone, because I've done it, you know, a long time, and it's not a great thing. But I was probably fooling myself. I was probably way up here. Optimal combat survival is in this range right here, 115 to 145. That's what you're shooting for. One of the things that we teach a lot, and if you ever gone and given a speech or you felt really like that adrenaline response where all of a sudden your mouth got dry and you just felt really nervous, we teach tactical breathing. Sometimes somebody, you know, the rabbit runs and some officer tries to pull somebody over, and especially a rookie, all of a sudden they can't talk on the mic. It's like, you know, their heart's going 90 miles an hour. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. You do that 2 or 3 cycles, and it absolutely resets your autonomic nervous system, and you will be good to go. Try it. It works. So one thing that I really like to talk about, and you heard it in the video, who knows what OODA loop is? Raise your hand. So I see 3 books. So I'm gonna lay it all out here and let's talk about it. You can't see at the bottom. It says do something, run, evacuate, attack. So OODA loop, OODA. It was, you know, this was somebody just, you know, invented this terminology. This is actually from a fighter pilot training back in the day, and he was an expert fighter pilot. He learned how to predict the other pilots, the enemy pilots' decisions. So OODA loop is I observe something. What does that mean? You know, what is it? I'm going to orient to that. What's that have to do with me? Orient is the most important step, by the way. That's where we live, is orient. And you do this every day, you don't realize it. You're sitting at a stop sign. You pull up, you look, what is it? Is there cars coming? Is there not? Does it look like they're going to stop? You make a decision. You know, what do their actions have to do with me? Looks like they're stopping. I guess I can go ahead and go. I'm going to pull on out there. I'm going to decide to go. I'm going to tell my foot to take off the brake. I'm going to go to the gas, and then I'm going to act. I'm going to actually push it, and I'm going to go. We do it all day long. But how does this interact with me? And I brought a little prop, and last time I said this was Brandon's crack house, but he didn't like that, but I did it again. So I'm going to Brandon's crack house, and you know, Brandon knows I'm coming. Brandon's sitting in there on the couch doing whatever Brandon does. All of a sudden the door flies open. That's not normal. The door doesn't normally fly open. I think somebody just hit that with a ram, and the door has flown off the hinges, and it's open. Brandon starts his OODA loop. The door flew open. Okay, what's that got to do with me? That's not normal. I probably ought to get up off this couch and get somewhere, and let me go do that. About that time, I'm not going to mention passenger floor or passenger, but this is the world's largest firecracker, so this is the flash thing. I'm not going to pull a pin and go off in here because this is actually, it's already been done. But this is going to come in the door. And Brandon's not going to look at it, but he's going to look at it. That's what we do. So, Brandon's halfway through this OODA loop when this comes rolling in, and he's going to be like, that is not expected. I haven't seen that before. What's that got to do with me? It doesn't look good. I probably shouldn't have. I better get out of here. And before that happens, this is going to go off. And it is the brightest light and the loudest bang you've ever heard. And a lot of smoke. He's already back to the top. So this is a 1.5 second process here. I see something. I think about what it's going to do. I decide what I'm going to do, and then I do it. That's a 1.5 second circle that's happening here. So the door to the flashbang, now he's back to the top, and by that time I'm sitting in his lap, and he got something. That's why, you know, special weapons and tactics, it's not rocket science. We're using our physiological conditions against us. I'm not giving y'all some big secrets you can't find on the internet. I can tell you this, I can tell you I'm coming sometime in the next 3 or 4 days to your house, and short of you building like a steel wall or something, this is going to work on you. Because you know you should look at it, but you don't. And you know, and and it's going to give me that 1.5 seconds to cross the room and be on. Brandon, will come help? So this is a laser. This is a train gun. This is plastic. Which one do you want? Good job, back. I don't care. should make
So am I
this
the good guy
hard.
or the bad guy? I'm the bad guy.
You're the good guy.
I'm the good guy. Okay.
So Brandon's the police officer, I'm the bad guy. So what am I doing? I'm threatening me, right? I'm not threatening him. I can't. And when I try to hurt you, you need to shoot me, okay? Just click. When you hear the click, that's when we're having. So seriously, you gonna point that gun at me? Like, okay, start over. This is not a very kind thing that the police officer is doing to me right now. I'm just having a bad day. Bang! You didn't even click the gun there, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I never shot a pistol at somebody before.
Okay, now you be the bad guy. We gotta do it this way. Okay, so I need you to drop the weapon. Put it down, bang! Who won? Neither. Because I see him come off of this, my brain says, hey, he's fixing to move that gun. He just moved it. I don't think that's good for me. I probably ought to press this trigger that I've already got pointed at him, and I'm going to press it. And my brain has to go all the way through my central nervous system, down my arm, activate these muscles, find motor skill here that we already lost because I'm already excited, and press that trigger, and we both lost. So I've testified many times in court for this particular reason, and the terminology is you tie, you die. Neither one of us are walking away from this in a good way. This is a very bad situation for me and unfortunately for him. And, I don't want to hurt you, but if I was smart, I probably either would have evacuated or I would have shot him before he could shoot me. But that looks really bad. Do we agree? Me shooting him like this? But tactically, I had a terrible advantage, or a terrible disadvantage with that. So, I think OODA loop is very important for us because it's 1.5 seconds for me to perceive it. I'm driving down the road, somebody's coming into my lane. That car's coming into my lane. That is not a good thing. I probably ought to steer away. Where should I go? I need to take my foot off the gas and put it on the brake. I mean, 1.5 seconds, really, how far could we be? Do you know how many times I could shoot Brandon in 1.5 seconds? By the human reaction time, I could press that trigger 5 times in 1.5 seconds. Every quarter second I could press that trigger, and I get to start. So, tactically, he has to already, and the bad guy, all he has to say is, I don't have to orient it. I don't have to All I have to do is say, you know what? I'm gonna have to shoot Brandon, and all I have to do is act. He has to do all the other 3 steps before I get to here. It's impossible. So driving down the road, if I have a plan, if I have pre-thought this out, I thought about my exits, I thought about what if somebody comes into my lane, what am I going to do? If I thought about this before instead of at the time that I needed to, I can cut that 1.5 seconds down to well below 1 second. Is that going to save my life? I don't know. But I can cut it down. It's scientifically proven. There's a group called Force Science Institute that I've trained with, and they've done a crazy amount of human testing, and I can cut that down to less than 1 second. And that's about as best as we can do. Maybe if I get a point like 0.08 of a second, it's important. So driving down the road, having a plan. If we're in one of these situations, having a plan, understand the OODA loop. Brandon, did I leave anything out on OODA loop that was important?
No, that's just my favorite part. Because I think it applies to everything, every day, supermarket, gas station, everything, restaurants.
It does, and some of us may call this role playing. We're just going through this. What if the pastor
The 1970s version of the couple of what ifs.
Yeah, and sometimes we what ifs and we're like kind of weird, but what if the pastor had said something that day to that man? What if he opens that bag? I'm gonna show you a video in a minute that I wish somebody would have differently, but mental rehearsal, visualize. I think this is very important. We have to understand that we can be successful and that we can win these situations. We have to have visually thought about us surviving and prevailing in situations. If you believe it can happen. If you believe it won't, you're probably not going to disappoint yourself because it probably won't. practice skills that are not complex. They use large muscle groups. Positive self-talk, slow down, I can handle it. I plan for this, we train for this. All that comes into play when your brain goes into real simple mode. So remember this? 2019, so almost 3 years ago. This is the video from the church shooting. Here's the suspect. Here's your security guys up here. Suspect's got a shotgun down, and they all know something's not right here. The pastor just told you, something didn't seem right about that guy. We've got security guys that are behind him, and I think, unfortunately, you're not going to walk around in a church like this and walk up to somebody, but you could get close to them. You could get close to them where I can, I got a jacket on. You don't have any idea that I have a gun that's readily available, and I can be like here and be here, but I don't have to be holstered up and have back here. I can be as prepared as I want to be, and you use your imagination about that. He's going to stand up. He's going to say something to this. I think he was an elder. He's going to pull out a gun. I'm going to watch this several times. I want y'all to look at different things. Look at the bad guy right now.
Which one is the bad guy again?
The guy moving around.
Right here. Okay. So the bad guy was here. He shoots this elder, and I think there's the security officer, the retired police officer right here, takes a shot across there. Watch the pastor this time. I assume it's a pastor. See everybody with their head down? They're just doing their thing. Okay, why did the pastor lay down on the stage?
So everybody else can lay down.
Huh?
So everybody else lay down.
Yeah, and all these people, you see them, and they want to look, they want to know what it is because it's a danger to them, and they know it's terribly bad. But everybody's inclination is to just get underneath this thing. You think, earlier when I was telling you that, y'all were shaking your hand like, I would never do that. Well, I wouldn't either, but I have a plan, and y'all do too. These people had never had a plan. They never thought, what if? The pastor, and like I said, I assume the pastor, he's the leader in front of the room, is all I can tell you. Is there anything wrong with what he did? No. He did what he did. He did what his brain said to do. His brain said, get down. That's what we've always been taught. The lady patting up in the library, get under the table. I'm telling you, we need to do something different. We need to get out of that room. Let this guy do their job. Get out of that room. Leave as many people as you can with you. And watch it again. And if this hurts your feelings for me playing this in here, I apologize, but I think it's important. They know. This man right here knows something bad's happening. Long guns out. He's reaching. Did y'all see the man that reached back here and got his gun? Who did the bad guy shoot first? He flagged what we would call flag. He flagged that. If I'm standing here like this and I'm Brandon and I'm in this church and somebody, stands up and I just don't feel good about this. And I know that I may have to defend myself and or others, which is constitutionally and by the penal code and code of criminal procedure allowed. And, all I have to do is this and without flagging myself or being really close to that man, because as soon as he was close to him and he pulls out a long gun, you may not even have killed that man that day. You may not have used deadly force against him. You might have been close enough that you could intervene, but nobody was. Any questions about that?
So he killed the elder and the first guy that tried to reach for his gun?
Yeah, so you had the security team back here from what I understand. I don't know all the details about this, but the elder was back here. And I know he was the second one. He shot one of the security team that flagged himself, and the third guy, I think he had a appendix carry, and he just pulled it out and made a really good shot on it. He was a firearm instructor, is what they said, and, but, how many seconds was that? And if he didn't have a pump shotgun, what else could he have done? I think it was mine. But, yeah, I'll watch it one more time if you want.
Looked like you had it out for a good few seconds before you.
I agree. Where were we at? Oodaloo, right? Oodaloo, because, my brain's like, I cannot believe that guy just pulled a shotgun out. How did that come out of their hands anyway? Your brain is working through that, and it's not expected. We don't want to go around thinking about things like that all the time, but sometimes you have to be prepared. Yeah, he pulled out a shotgun, and there was quite a delay there. So, I always say there's a line in the sand. If you cross that line, this is what I'm going to do. Short of that line, you have to have had that mental thought beforehand.
So there's 4 of them up there, right? Is that what I was thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 4.
And I don't know they're all security team. This guy's the one that does the shot. This is the one that's fixing to get shot first. He's going to reach back, right-handed shooter. He's going to reach back and flag what he's doing. This guy doesn't do anything to defend himself, best I know. I'm sorry, the guy just stood up. What if this man had not made that shot and or been able to defend this room? What would have worked? What could that guy have done? Because you saw this, crowd, and I said at the beginning, I don't mean that term to be derogatory. We are followers as general people, but they did exactly what they had planned to do, which was nothing. So he could have gone and just done anything in that room until it said 14 minutes in the video. It's going to take us about 4 minutes to get there on average for a priority 1 call. 4 minutes is a long time, y'all.
So in this scenario, what should they have done, better? Like, they obviously knew something, did it feel right, something was wrong?
This is a bar. There's a baby in a bar. What's that show? Sweet Home Alabama. So this is a bar, and there was a band called the Great White. Do y'all remember this? Okay, this is a terrible fire. This video is going to kill a lot of people in this place. But this is the entrance. This is where you all come in, and you show your ticket right here. And then you come in here. There's a big band, and you see the fireworks. That's going to come into play in a minute. All these people are going to stand around in here. There's some pool tables over here. What are these things? Yeah, that's windows. That's alternate exits, I would call. Okay, so you came in this way. Here's an exit that's required by fire code. There's an exit. Here's one back here. So any place you go that serves food, where is an exit? Because that's how they get the food in, right? They don't bring it in the front door and embarrass everybody. They bring it in the back door. So the kitchen is always a good idea. Dark room, bathrooms, all this stuff. But this isn't somebody shooting anybody. This place catches on fire, and what people did was what they were trained to do, which was nothing. They died, sadly. People that worked here, that worked behind the bar, they died in there. They knew the layout of this place. But what they did is their brain turned real simple, and they said, I came in this way, I'm going to follow the herd back out this door, okay? And I'm going to skip all this. The guy back here, he'd been set there, and his job was band only. You can't come out this door, band only. But this door is only for the band. I would have taken him with me, but we would have broken that rule, because that's where I would have gone. But his job was band only. He was literally turning people away. So watch the clock. They're going to light the pyrotechnics back here. There's an insulation on the roof. They should have never done this in here, and the fire's going to start. There just happened to be a film crew in there that night, and you see the person filming. They're like, oh, this isn't good, and they start backing out almost immediately.
Structure fires, they double in size every 60 minutes. Or every 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds, it's double.
Did you see how long it took for the band to quit playing the music? When the band quit playing the music, what was that? That's like a pastor saying, get out, you know. They quit playing the music, and they were like, but they all saw the smoke, like, that's not good. And the guy with the camera, like I said, just happened to be there filming some kind of documentary, and he was just immediately like, oh yeah, that's not good. way they came in. So why would you go out any other way? Because your brain had never thought about having a plan. You know, you've probably been over here, you know there's an exit. We know there's a kitchen, so there's an exit. People went in the bathroom and died in here. Quite a few people were trapped back here, walk-in cooler. This person, I don't know that they were confirmed that was the person that worked behind the bar. They just went into field mode. But yeah, 31 people died like packed in there like cordwood because their brain said, go back out the way I came in. Okay? We gotta have a plan.
So on the bottom right, there was a 7. Were there?
Yeah, I think that might have just been people that got dragged out, or I don't know. That's just they were exterior. Yeah.
Nobody went out by that van pickup, that van door?
I think the band did. They described, when I read about this, they described the person that was doing that job as literally turning people away. Because his brain had been told, Patty in the library, exit only, band only, you know, said, everybody, this way, you know. It's super sad, but it's a good example to us for us to understand that we will do as we have been trained. As simple as that. So, a recap from Columbine. I mean, I want you to understand that there's no negotiation, there's no compromise, there's no, hey, let's slow this down, let's talk about this, you know, y'all. That's not what the person came for. That's not this scenario. They came to hurt. This is a video, this may be a little bit offensive. I told Brandon I'll try to skip the language, but this is a recreation of what actually happened in the school. And it's basically recreated based on the surveillance video in the school. I'll show y'all 2 more things and we'll get out of here. Unless you have a question. Okay, so they're running from the source, but there's 2 of them. And this is where they follow the leader, right? So they don't know which way the shots are coming from. I guess I'll turn the volume all the way down, Brandon. This is them running through the library. This is follow the leader. You don't have to follow the herd. Sorry. Just trying to turn the audio up just a little bit.
Is this the actual Columbine library here?
That's a good question. When I was first shown this, they weren't kind enough to tell us this wasn't real. It's pretty disturbing thinking it's actually a video, but it's disturbing.
I think there's a shooting at my school.
Ma'am. There's 2 shooters, ma'am.
We're such mean people. Yeah.
Hello, can you pick up?
It's our little buddy.
This is them getting under the table.
No, hold up. You got a clues? Come on.
Andre. Andre? Andre?
There was a phone that was active in the library.
Pick up. Hey, everybody! Several people in the room. Discussing health hospitals, perpetrators, and women in the room.
It's not this quick, uncontrolled scenario. They are literally going through there and picking people. I always like to mention this. There's a book called The Gift of Fear, Gavin Becker wrote, and it's a lot. And I heard it mentioned 3 or 4 times in the class I was in 2 weeks ago. It's a little slow in the middle, but it's worth reading. And it's about us following our instincts. We're kind, we're cordial, we're, hate to offend somebody, like a pastor talking about, confronting that person that day. It's not the kind and cordial thing to do to confront somebody, but it's important that he felt the need to do it, that he did it. Act on your instincts. My son and I were in Frankfurt, Germany, and this is my wife right here, she wasn't with us. We are backpacking across Germany, we're backpacking across Europe on riding the train, and we're getting off a different town and exploring the town and get back on the train and we go to the next town. We get off in Frankfurt, Germany. I get off the train and I'm like, okay, a lot across the street. Guess who followed us? These two people. So I'm going down the sidewalk, and I said, we're going to do it again. I said, they follow us again. They're right in the middle of this block, and the hotel's right down there. I'm telling them, you're going to go to the hotel, and I'm going to make it as slow a response for them as possible. I'm going to hurt somebody if I have to. But as soon as I crossed the street again, you know what they did? Cop, and they went on about their way. If I'm going to get robbed in Europe, in Frankfurt, Germany, I'm going to get robbed in the middle of the street where everybody's going to see me. I'm not going to do it on some alley unless somebody, not have a witness. So what I want you to understand is bad guys don't like noise. And that's like 39 cents for one of these. This personal alarm, you pull that thing and it makes a lot of noise. Bad guys don't like noise. So ladies, you can have a plane, you can have some pepper spray, you can have a firearm, you can have a way to defend yourself, but who can't blow a whistle? And what bad guy wants a whole bunch of people looking at him? None of them. So you can have some plans in place to defend yourself without having to actually do physical harm to somebody. But don't do nothing. Do something. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Now it took about 16 minutes too long. But
Yeah, we got a 5-minute head start. So we're
okay.
good.
What questions do y'all have for me? Y'all have any specific questions? We've gone over quite a few here.
I have a question about the guy trying to commit suicide, and you're standing there. So do you try and shoot them to, harm them, or are you shooting to kill them?
Well, I would try to not be in that situation, number one. I'm going to try to have cover, which is not concealment. It's some cover. It's something that's going to protect me from gunfire, like a car block or, a steel wall or a tree. I'm going to get to whatever advantage that I can get, and then I'm going to use my tools and tactics that I've been trained to do for a long time. But I don't ever want to be standing that close to the brain. I'm going to be backing up. I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to make it harder for him. I can shoot pretty good from a distance. Unfortunately, he can't too. But he may not be the average, bad guy. And maybe he just wants to hurt himself. But I saw a video a few days ago where the guy's like, come on, bro. Come on, she's choking on her blood. He called the police. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, he took 5 from out the door.
Yeah, and he's not even hiding. He's just blading away. He's got a gun in his left hand. 70% of us are right-handed. 30%. He's a 30%er. He's got a gun in his left hand. It's like he's calling on the police officer. Come on, man. You gotta get in here and help her. He's calling his duty and his oath that he's taking to go in here and protect life and limb. And as soon as he gets within his range, he comes up and just shoots it. And, what do you do? Heavenly Father, I'm home. I mean, it's a really bad situation for me to do the action versus reaction. But what I want you to understand is action always beats reaction. And we're at a disadvantage. 10,000 times I walked up and I walked up to your door. Hey, good evening, sir. You realize Officer Marco's Conner Police Department. You realize when I stopped here today, your license, insurance, all that stuff. And I had an interaction, and I walked up there. I expected to see this. Or I expected to see this. If I saw that, probably a good day. I'm gonna live. I told her every day I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna do everything I can to come home. When I saw hands, that's what generally hurts me. Unless you're chucking the deal and you can jump up and kick my face off. But I saw this. The day that you see that handgun come out the window, or you see the barrel of the shotgun come out the window, I expected it. Every time I walk up to a car, I expect to see that. And the day I saw it, I was Zulu. I was already past observed and oriented. I was way past oriented. Yeah, sure enough, there's a barrel of a gun coming out the window. I know what I got to do. I was already decided to act. So I'd taken that first part and cut it by role playing in a really gross way of always expecting to get shot on a traffic stop. And by saying that, I actually already saw it on the murder by telling dispatch where I was, who I had stopped, what the car looked like. They could come and find the bad guy that had maybe got a better advantage. But me standing at that door was a terrible disadvantage. But that's why we train so much and we try to cut that hoodoo down. And you're gonna try to hurt me, you better be good, because we train for this. This is not a job. This was a calling for me. if I try to shoot this gun out of this first thing and I shoot with the child care behind it, you know, I mean, that's a rough thing to try to do. The thing you want to do is not put yourself in that situation. I have been in that situation, that close to somebody, and I didn't shoot. And if I was smart, I would have, most likely, because you saw how it worked out with me and Brandon. I got him like 10 times. I saw that.
Sorry, I'm not a good man. Did you guys once?
I pick on him because I like him, and I like to expose the crap out to everybody. What other questions?
I'm just going to comment something that I think that it's very important that, especially the regular people that are coming here to the church, to be very observant of all new people that you don't normally see, and just be observant.
Yeah.
That will help a lot.
We get so, have y'all ever gone through a life and driving down the road and go, I like green.
Right.
They did. I mean, that's how distracted we can get for them. You look back and you see somebody else go and you go, whoo, it was green, you know, like I could kill somebody back there. And I wasn't even paying attention, you know, I'm doing this crazy thing on my car. I'd rather shoot this at me than run me over the car. Because you're probably going to miss with this car, man. Pastor, I don't know how you stand up there. It's kind of hot all the lights.
That's why it's still moving on.
Yeah, I'm going to down here
I'll make some money on my side.
Any other questions? Y'all any concerns? Anything that you thought was inappropriate? Yes, sir.
Shouldn't a person be trying to use a gun if they're going to use the gun?
Shouldn't they be trying to use it?
Train.
Train? Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I gotta tell you, you know, if you're gonna carry one, I think you should be very well trained.
Right.
Having said that, I saw some statistics 2 weeks ago on what they call a naive shooter. It would be like somebody you never fired a gun picking this thing up because they play video games all the time. And it's pretty scary how accurate they can be. But yes, thank y'all for your time and attention. I hope you learned something. Appreciate it. So I hope everybody enjoyed it, and as a token of our appreciation from C.R.A.S.E Central, we have one slide out. You got a pocket. I thought I already got